Ladies and gentlemen, another TEE race is upon us. It's back to your regular commentators this week. We've given Nevio a break. It is myself, Copcast, and alongside me, I have Mr. Max Ring. Good evening, Max. How excited are we for this race around Mexico?
Hello, everybody. Pleasure to be back in the comms box, and of course, as he's already mentioned, I'm alongside Cotcast. But yeah, I'm very good myself, and it should be a very interesting race tonight around Mexico, a track that can provide many a challenge to some of the drivers and is also very high on tyre wear. So should be a very interesting race here this evening. A lot of overtaking opportunities too, which could provide an exciting race here, Cotkaz. And how are you, and how excited are you for this race here this evening as well?
Oh, you've thrown my question right back at me. I mean,
yep.
It's I mean, I love Mexico. I think it's a great track that throws up many different things. And at the moment, we've got many different laps that have been thrown in. Thomas Lang, 3 seconds ahead of Campbell Adams in second place at the moment. I'm sure that will change as we head into the race session, but at the moment in Q1, Thomas Lang, I feel like he's going to retire. I feel like he thinks that 13.7 is good enough with everybody else setting into times. I'm sure he's going to wait maybe a little bit longer just to see what the track evolution looks like, but at the moment, I mean, 3 seconds ahead of the grid, he can put his feet up.
Yeah, he certainly can. He can just sit there in the garage, wait for a little bit longer while everybody else comes off those intermediates and then it starts their soft tyre preparation laps. And I mean, for Thomas Lang, it is a very solid first lap for the Williams man. A 13.7, I think, as you said, that should be a safe lap time, but it will certainly just wait it out and just see how everybody else does. Of course, the track very green at the moment. Not a lot of rubber has been laid down on the circuit so far, so the times will keep constantly get quicker and quicker, lap after lap, as more rubber laid down. The racing line starts to form and more purchase can be given from the tyres. We have Yago in the the middle sector now, heading through the S section, a little bit offline, heading into turns 11 and 12. DRS open for the Haas driver. It's a 55-point theme, just hooked up as Thomas Lang's lap as we enter into the stadium section, the Curva del Sol, as we then head into the final corner. What is this going to be for the SET driver as he heads up to the line? Can he get anywhere near Thomas Lang? And it turns out to be 5 tenths behind the Williams driver. Yusuf Goat goes up into second. He is still a further 3 tenths away from Thomas Lang. So Thomas Lang still holding on strong for now. Of course, a lot of the drivers still on their intermediates or haven't come out for lap times yet. But crucially, one driver who is now on a lap time, Miguel Gutierrez, for IRT, who haven't had the greatest of seasons so far, is now looking to try and topple that time at the top of the timesheets.
Yeah, somebody needs to tell him, though, that we are having a lobby restart, because unfortunately, collisions have been left on by the person who set up the lobby. It's almost as though they were just following the rule book, and they should not be blamed at all. But we are having a quick lobby restart before we head into the race session, and so we're going to have a quick lobby restart, a quick lobby restart before we get into the action, and that means that the broadcast is going to have an intermission. Okay, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Sorry about that. Whoever it was that set up the lobby before set it up incorrectly. So we're back with a new host with hopefully better Wi-Fi that's more capable of streaming and doing the race at the same time. And we are here for our qualifying session. We only got 4 minutes into the first one, and then we had to wait for Campbell Adams to retire for another 10. So regardless, we are already in, and we are ready to go racing here in TEE this evening with the first drivers out on their laps already. Both the ET8 drivers, Leonardo Tonelato and Joel Lindstrom, with Thomas Lang, Jay Kennedy, and Yago CG as well. I will ask him how to pronounce that. But we do have qualifying bands. We have Modesto Mena. We have TTM, one of their drivers who hasn't joined the lobby yet. He will have a quali ban. And we will have Drastic Blaze for IRT, who will be joining later on. By the way, the times are a bit more competitive this time around. It's not just Thomas Lang at the top. It's Leonardo Tonelato and Joel Lindstrom as well as the two ET8 drivers beat out the FVR man to the front row of the grid.
Yeah, they certainly have. And for Thomas Lang, that was a better banker lap than he set in the previous session. 3 tenths quicker than what he was previously able to do. And as you can see, it's a bit more overcast here in Mexico, meaning tyres can stay cooler for longer. And that should mean we do get those quicker lap times because they will be able to push on the limit just for a few extra corners. So who else is on a lap time? Youssef Goat is now heading down into the middle sector split, 55.2, apparently purple from the game so far as we're now heading into the stadium section. A bit of a slide under braking, heading into the left-hander, and then finally through the final corner. What's it going to be for Youssef as he crosses the line? The Mercedes driver, he goes 4th fastest, 4 tenths behind Joel Lindstrom's lap time, but again, an improvement from what we saw in the previous session. That gave us a little taster of what was to come from a few of our drivers, as Lucci in the Haas as well is currently setting a lap time on the softs. We didn't see a lap time from him in the last qualifying session. A 55.9 in the middle sector is quite a way down on Youssef Goat, so not really. Sheets big slide heading into the stadium section for the Haas man. That's really going to cost him, and surely will be at the bottom of the soft tyre runs as he heads around the final corner. And yes, he's into 14.5, nearly a second off Joel Lindstrom. So he is a driver that is certainly going to be at risk come the end of this Q1 session.
Yeah, and I don't know if I'm right in saying, but I think I've seen a few raindrops coming down, which is why the drivers are so desperate to get their laps in early. We saw most of the drivers early on the Inces trying to set their first lap. This time round, it is more than just Thomas Lang on those softs. Lindstrom, Tonelato, Youssef Goat, Miguel Gutierrez, and Lucci as well on those softs. And Yago CG will be coming round to set his lap very, very soon. Intermediate runners, we have Daniel Gottschalk and Tim Tornimo who have set laps. They will have pulled an absolute world if it starts raining now. And Pasquale Ranieri, he invalidated on his lap, so he will not be setting a time, but just watching now on board with Lucci as he comes into the pits. SET will have a lot to prove, and the early parts of this qualifying session haven't really demonstrated that. They are 6th and on an outlap. So Yago CG will need to do something if SET are to set themselves up for a good weekend.
Yeah, certainly, of course. They joined late in the season, and this time they are now looking for a good points haul. Currently bottom in the standings. Quickly about the standings, it is TF10 that lead the way from ET8, but only separated by a total of 18 points, so very close between the top 2 in the standings. FVR a little bit further back on 182, then it's TTM on 142, Thomas Eng on 138 in 5th, NLR in 6th there on 95, then it's ABS with 41, Avicio with 40, International Racing Team IRT with 22 in 9th, and then of course Sierra Esports Team with 11, currently sitting in 10th place. So need a big result this evening if they want to take themselves off the bottom of the pile. Of course, going to be battling with IRT, which is so far consisted of Miguel Gutierrez in this qualifying session. So for Yago, it's a 55.1 in that middle sector. This is currently going to put him in front of Youssef Goat and behind Thomas Lang. So it could be a very good lap time here from the Haas driver. A bit of a slide heading into the final corner. What's it going to be for Yago as he comes across the line? Good enough for 6th place. Lost a bit of time in that final sector. Still a decent lap time, so at least puts him within a fighting chance of trying to survive this qualifying session with, of course, Gottschalk and Tornimo doing their laps on the intermediates. We have now more drivers coming out on the softs. We have Ranieri and also Campbell Adams, who's going to be starting his lap in the Aston Martin.
Yeah, and he'll be hoping, as the only Thomas Enger sim racing driver with a qualifying ahead of him, he'll be hoping to put on a decent show of it. At the moment, he is down in P18 in last place, but that is because he hasn't set a time. His teammate Modesto Mena will be starting from the rear of the field alongside Lighty and the IRT driver. I don't recall his name at the moment, but Campbell Adams. He'll be looking further towards the top of the grid if he can, right up the peak of this field with a beautiful dark green Aston Martin, British Racing Green it is referred as, and he's got one more sector to go. The most exciting sector on this track, one of the best sectors in my opinion on the entire calendar, because it's just, you have to keep on edge for the entire time. You have to use so much curb, but not too much curb. It's very, very easy to spin it, to mess it up, and in your push runs, just like Campbell Adams has done there, you want to use as much throttle as you can, and then as much curbing to turn yourself into the stadium section. A little bit of a lock-up into the chicane, but he's all right coming out of the other end of it and using the curb to full effect around the final corner. Campbell Adams, what is he going to set? It's going to be pole position for the Thomas Enger driver at the moment, a 1:13.311.
Yeah, very good lap time there from Campbell Adams to put himself at the top of the times. And that could certainly be him through to the next part of qualifying. Aiden's just started his lap. You have Ranieri now heading through the final corner. What's it going to be for the ABS driver as he heads up to the line? He goes up into 4th place. That's 4 drivers now into the 13.4s. Only a tenth of a second separating those 4 drivers. You also have Jay Kennedy, who's just in the middle sector now in the Scarlet Red Ferrari for NLR. So now he's heading through the tight and twisty middle sector, as Kotka has previously mentioned, one of the best sectors on the games. It's all about keeping your momentum, keeping that speed. As it's a 55.0 in that middle sector. Apparently purple again from Jay Kennedy. So as he now heads into the stadium section, a little bit of a slide heading on the exit of turn 16 as Jay Kennedy now heads round the final corner. What's it going to be for the Ferrari man as he crosses the line? Good enough for 3rd place. Makes it another driver into those 0.4s. Really close between this field so far. And Aiden now currently into the final corner as well. The McLaren driver going to try put himself in contention for the top of the times here in Q1. He crosses the line. He goes 7th quickest, a 13.705. And it all lies to Tamas Kokeni as Jacob Stroud goes to the top of the times now. A 13.276. That's certainly going to be good enough. Laminin up into 3rd place. Times coming in thick and fast on the softs in these second runs. And Kokeni only good enough for 9th fastest.
Yeah, not what he would have wanted out of that lap. And he will start from P9. If this was a short qualifying session, it is not. It is a full qualifying. So at the moment, these times that are being thrown in are very, very good for a first qualifying session. You don't need your times to be good, though, for the first qualifying session. You just need to be right up there. And at the moment, a 13.4 is good enough to get through. But I think the only drivers who can count themselves safe and through are Jacob Strode, Campbell Adams, and maybe Thomas Laminin as well, as we've got lots of drivers hanging around, as you mentioned, the 13.4s from Joel Lindstrom all the way down to Thomas Lang. All of them are in the 13.4s. Everyone below, though, had a poor time of it. I believe Tim Tornimo's lap might have even been on the intermediate tyres, which would explain it. The rain appears to be holding off for the moment, by the way. It's still overcast, but not as... It's not getting any worse. So we could be having no rain in this Q1 session, but rain in Q2 would definitely throw a spanner into the works.
Yeah, it certainly would. Of course, this circuit's so tricky to get right in the dry. Doing it in the wet will make it a 10 times harder challenge. And it'll make those track limits a bit more predominant. Avesta Racing now coming up to the line in the Mercedes. Goes in to 12th place, just behind Miguel Gutierrez, who has just set a lap time himself as well. He's currently sitting in 11th place. He did improve on his previous attempt. So the track is certainly improving. Of course, Jacob Strud and Thomas Laminen both retiring in the pit lane. Those two drivers very confident, especially Jacob, that lap time will see him through, and it should see him through in this session. Yago goes into 13th. Here comes Youssef Goat to the line, of course. 16th, 7th, and 17th in this session will be eliminated. And Youssef Goat to 3rd in the times. A brilliant lap time from the EVE driver. That really came from out of nowhere. And he's managed to put himself into 3rd in this qualifying session. And that surely will be safe. And could that be a little image to the drivers behind him, the likes of Lindstrom, Tonelato, Gottschalk and Thomas Lang, that maybe their .4s are not safe at all, and they will need to come out again, because Youssef Goat, with the track improving, the more rubber getting laid down from his previous lap time, has been able to find a mere 5/10 improvement on his previous attempt.
Yeah, pretty good stuff from Youssef. And he has found his way into the top 3. Thomas Laminen retiring from the session as well. In the meantime, with Youssef, you think that he is going to retire as well. There's 3/10 to make up for those at the bottom. Sorry for the stuff that keeps popping up on the screen, by the way. I don't know why the telemetry keeps appearing. I will try to sort that out between now and the race session. But Yago CG coming into the pits. He knows he's only got one more crack at it. Most of these drivers will have one more crack at it. And for Lucci, the crack that he has just had did not open anything up for him. He is 5/10 down heading into the second sector. And so there is a lot of work to do. The drivers at risk at the moment, Aiden Hurt, Lucci and Tim Tornimo. Those are the drivers right down the bottom at the moment, with Lucci and Tim Tornimo as it would stand, dropping out of the session. So a lot of work still to do. Campbell Adams retires. He knows that he doesn't need to do anything more in this session. Youssef Goat will surely follow very, very soon, as 500ths would have to be made up by Joel Lindstrom. That would turn into about 5/10 if Aiden Hurt, or 4/10 if Aiden Hurt wanted to get up there as well. But yeah, at the moment, Aiden the driver at risk, and Lucci and Tim Tornimo, they need something else. Tim Tornimo, he's on track at the moment, and so we'll watch on board with his first real attempt. He'll head through now to turn number 1, a long straight, followed by a heavy braking zone and a mid-speed corner that would just slide your way through, trying not to use too much curbing. I think Tim there might have used too much curbing, and so he will suffer as a result of that. He only needs a 13.4, a low 13.4 if he's going to get into it, and he's almost improving by a second in that first sector. It's 8/10 that is improving by 8.5 if you're going to be picky. And Tim Tornimo, this is where he can find all of that time that he didn't have on the inters in the mid-speed corners. That is where he will have the edge if he gets these right, of course. Trying to use as much curbing as possible, but also trying not to spin out. It's a healthy balance to try and find. And Tim Tornimo, he's out of his ERS, but he's used it all to good effect. He's 2.3 seconds improved on his time as he heads into the final sector. He's got 2 more corners to go. Now 1 more corner to go. What can Tim Tornimo do? He needs to improve by a minimum of 3.2 seconds. If he wants any chance of getting through to Q2, it's 3.4 seconds that he does improve by, and Tim Tornimo moves up to 11th.
Yeah, that lap might have just seen Tim Tornimo through. Aiden Hurt now on a lap time in the McLaren. He, of course, was a driver at risk. Now he is in that elimination zone. Yago is now the driver on the cusp. And what's going to be in the first sector? He's up by 1/10 of a second. This would just be enough to promote him up into the top 13. So for Aiden, this needs to be an absolute monstrous middle and final sector if he wants to make sure that he is safe. Everyone down to Lang have really retired in this session. Ranielli in 8th, has decided to come out for another stab at things. But here comes Aiden. He's kept it clean through the middle sector, not invalidated. He's lapped time, very easy to do in qualifying, but he has lost time. That is crucial, that he has lost time. He's only up by 400ths. This would only just put him in front of Yago. So Aiden really at risk of elimination here for TTM. Currently heading through the Piltarda now. What's it going to be for Aiden? Is it enough to get out of qualifying? Will he be safe? He just goes into 15th. All eyes turn to Yago and Lucci for Sierra Esports team. They have just started both their flying laps, so we'll check back in on them in a few moments' time. Miguel Gutierrez just starting his lap. Kokeni, who is slightly at risk as well, down in 12th place, heading into the middle sector split now. He's up by 0.2 of a second. This lap time surely will see him through if he's able to keep it clean for the rest of the lap. So for Kokeni, heading into the Piltarda now. What is it going to be? Would it be enough to put him to the top of the times, or at least around that point? As he crosses the line, he goes up to 5th. So all eyes turn back to Yago and Lucci in this qualifying session. Both drivers from the same team battling to try and get out of qualifying. Yago down by half a tenth in that middle sector. Could this be a lifeline for Aiden? A big slide as well into the stadium section. And for Yago, it's all gone wrong. And when the pressure is on him the most, it has really struck him down. Lucci also invalidating. So for Sierra Esports team, what it looked like they could make it through out of Q1 and eliminate one of the TTM drivers, they have failed at the last hurdle, and Aiden, by the skin of his teeth, he can count his lucky stars, has made it into Q2, but only just.
But you've got to ride your luck in these sorts of situations, and Aiden Hurt now has the opportunity to gain time here. You could be seeing him at the top of the timesheets right at the end, but it's not a good start. It's not a good start for SET either. They'll be starting 16th and 17th. They are just ahead of the drivers with the quali bands, and they are the only ones that are eliminated. We have got a couple more drivers still on track and waiting for the end of their lap times, but everybody has indeed finished. And this is the order after Q1. It's Jacob Strode taking that first provisional pole position at the end of Q1. Campbell Adams would have been lining up alongside him on the front row. Yusuf Goat for ET8, not ET8, EVE, sorry, in 3rd place, which is a strong performance with Thomas Laminen down in 4th, and Tamas Kukani taking 5th. Then it's an ET8 driver of Joel Lindstrom with Jay Kennedy in 7th. Then it's Leonardo Tonelato, Pasquale Ranieri. Then it is Daniel Gottschalk rounding out the top 10. Thomas Lang, Tim Tornimo, Miguel Gutierrez, Avesta Racing, and Aiden Hurt is the final man to make it through.
Yeah, that was a very good qualifying session, and Aiden really lucky to make it through there by 400ths of a second. But you can see the drivers at the front. Jacob Strud, of course, with that one lap, setting the benchmark for the rest of qualifying, with Campbell Adams as well, really putting in a strong performance for 2nd place. We just now gonna have to wait and see how the second part of qualifying goes. Of course, Q1 is just about making sure you survive, stay in that top 15. Q2, that's when the pressure gets cranked a little higher. You got to get into that top 10. That's when drivers start to push the limits just that little bit more, and you start to feel that pressure just slightly rise and that tension build in the cockpit. And it's all going to be about how the drivers now manage this. Of course, so easy to invalidate around a circuit like Mexico, just taking too much curb at certain points in the track, just a little bit too much of the apex can cost you dearly and ruin your entire lap time. So we're into Q2 now. We have drivers coming out of their garages, and the first driver to be doing that is going to be Tamas Kokeni. Of course, a driver we've seen excel in qualifying this season, looking to excel once again. Of course, was in Thomas Eng at the start, now in ABS, and is looking to try and put the Alpine outfit on the front row of the grid if possible. So for Tamas Kokeni, all going to be about surviving Q2, and for someone like Aiden, who's just had that near miss, the pressure is really going to start building on someone that doesn't look like they're going to make it through to the next part of qualifying.
Yeah, I mean, Aiden really did get lucky with the fact that the SET drivers had poor final laps. They didn't have the bottle to get through to the end and that is just part and parcel of what happens in racing. But now you have to take advantage of your opportunity to the max, and Aidan Hurt now will be hopefully trying to set his sights forward rather than backwards. He'll be looking towards Q3 as opposed to looking over his shoulder and looking at the fact that he almost went out in Q1. Tamas Kukeni, he's really struggled since joining ABS. He just hasn't had that same pace, and that can happen when you switch teams. You just don't feel the synergy, and they don't understand the way that you drive just yet. But the more you drive for them, the more they will understand you. And Tamas Kukeni will be hoping that it'll be coming up trumps very, very soon. And the ABS man, formerly of Thomas Enger at the start of this season, will be looking for some sort of thing. Some sort of, some sort of thing. Some sort of lap time. Some sort of something coming from nowhere, it seems, at the moment. And he'll be looking at the other Thomas Enger drivers with envy. Bear in mind, at the start of the season, we talked about Conrad Bohm and Tamas Kukeni as being one of the quickest lineups that we've ever seen in the Thrill Esports event. And so, surprising to see him struggling now to get out of Q2.
Yeah, it really is a surprise to see that, as drivers, of course, now on their laps, a lot of them heading through the middle sector. Tamas Kukeni, 55.4 in that middle sector. Not the strongest we've seen so far, but of course, drivers going to be on used sets of tyres to minimise the amount of fresh sets that they are using to save some for the final part of qualifying Q3. So Kukeni to the line. How much is the difference between tyre lives after one lap and after 2 laps? It's a 14.0 for Kukeni. Jacob Stroud with a 14.0 as well. Tonelato, 13.5. That seems to be on a fresh set of the soft compounded tyres. Kennedy up into second as well. He's also into the 13.5s. Lang up to third place too. Lindstrom into fourth as times now coming in thick and fast. Aiden 2 temps off. Tamas Kukeni, Thomas Lamanen to the line. He's a further 2 temps back from him. Youssef Goat now heading through the the middle sector and into the final sector. Campbell Adams, a 13.0. That could easily already be a contender for being safe and heading into Q3. Campbell Adams is flying here for Thomas Eng Sim, and that really could be a lap time that might have already stamped his ticket into Q3. Youssef Goat to the line. He goes into 9th for 14.056. You can see the drivers that have used the old set of soft compounded tyres, the likes of Lamanen, Aiden, Gutierrez, Kukeni and co. All the drivers in the 14.0s, maybe even Lindstrom as well on that 13.7. But the other drivers like Tonelato, Ranieri and Kennedy all have used a new set, especially Campbell Adams. A lap time like that, he might have already just seen himself into that final part of qualifying, and the rest of this session could just be learning that track a bit more, understanding the bit of the grip that the more rubber will produce, and understanding how the car handles in these conditions. So for Campbell Adams, that is a really strong lap time, and that is a real good bid for pole, even in Q3 as well.
It is indeed, and I mean, he's 5 tenths ahead of everybody else. That just goes to show you how quick that lap was, and Campbell Adams will be hoping that that is going to be enough for him to make it through to Q2, as it's now single digits on the clock. There is 9 minutes and 53 seconds left in the session. And for Thomas Enger Sim Racing, they could be sandwiching first and pretty much last, with Modesto Mena being one of many with a qualifying ban in this session. It could be that the two teams can work together. The two teammates even can work together. Campbell Adams might be able to get something out of this race for Modesto Mena, or he could just fly off into the distance. I think because of how close it is in TEE, that it's going to be that Campbell Adams tries to break a gap. But you never know. And because of the long straight and the double DRS dose as well, you never know.
Yeah, it's going to be very difficult to try and break that DRS train from behind, of course, with, as you said, 2 DRS straights coming straight back to back, and how long that main straight is, it's really difficult to even be able to extend past 1 second throughout the rest of the lap because it's so high speed. You don't really have those slow speed corners until you hit that final sector into the stadium section, where that's really where the time can be gained. So it's all going to be about how the drivers do manage this one, especially if you're at the front of the field leading that train. Do you decide to do a good old game of switcheroo for a majority of the race and just try get into the prime position for that final lap? Or do you try go early? Try and break away on that opening lap of the race. Try and get a good start and just launch off into the horizon. That is going to be the big question here this evening. But with more laps starting to begin, the second runs, these are now the proper runs for most of these drivers. They are now going to be all on a fresh set of the soft compound of tyres. So for Tamas Kokeni, he's heading through turns 1, 2 and 3. Seemed quite stable, quite good through there for the Alpine driver. So we're now heading up into that first sector split. What is the difference in the first sector between the fresh and the old set? Only a 1/10 of a second so far, but this is really where you could start to build that time up through the middle sector, where a lot of pressure and a lot of load is put on those front tyres to just hook yourself into the left, then into the right. Oh, a little bit wide from Tamas Kokeni, hit the curb, and that unsettled the car ever so slightly. So this isn't going to be the greatest middle sectors we've seen by all the drivers so far. It's 55.0. He's up by 4 tenths still on his previous lap time as we're now heading into the final sector. This is where those fresh tyres can really come into play on the traction zones. So for Kokeni, can he put himself at least into the top 2 in this second stage of qualifying? He'll be up to the line through the Perotada, and he goes up into 4th place, just in front of teammate Ranieri. Jacob Stroud, another 13.2 from him, instantly beaten by Daniel Gottschalk. Aiden up into 7th place. He's on a 13.5 now. He's getting quicker and quicker as the session goes on. Ferrari to the line. That was Tim Tornimo, only a 13.7 from him, so he still needs to improve on his previous attempt. Thomas Lang has invalidated as he was heading up to the line. Joel Lindstrom is now heading through the middle sector, but I think his teammate Tonelato is just a little... No, it's not Tonelato, sorry. It is the Red Bull of Tuomas Laminen now heading through the Perotada as well. So where can he go in Q2? Can he put himself next to his teammate Gottschalk? Yes, he can. He can better Gottschalk with that lap time, but still over just under a 1/10.5 away from Campbell Adams. So even with the extra track evolution and the tyre delta, these drivers still aren't going to get close enough to Campbell Adams' lap time.
Yeah, what a time that was from Campbell Adams. And even though the TF10 boys looked so much quicker, they were unable to match that time. Looking now at Leonardo Tonelato, who's heading through the final sector. Many drivers are heading through the final sector, but Tonelato is 8th and improving. He's got a couple of corners to go. That is allegedly a purple sector. That is 2 tenths that he has been able to gain in the first 2 sectors. What can he do in the final one? Did he lose a lot of time? We could be seeing one of the ET8 drivers, one of the boys who was so quick early on in Q1. We could be seeing him heading up into the top few. Jay Kennedy joins the elites. Tonelato leads the elites. 1:12.996. He becomes the first into the 1-minute 12s. And what a gauntlet that is to throw down.
Yeah, he's really thrown down a statement there, has Leonardo Tonelato. And wow, what a way to put yourself. That's surely through into Q3. That he's pulled that lap from the depths, showed the tyre delta that he did have in hand. 5 tenths pretty much gained in that final sector. Really strong from the ET8 driver. Is anyone else on a lap who may have invalidated previously? No, I do not think so. And Cockaz, you have left the lobby. Would you like an invite back there?
So my PC has decided to turn off. So I would like an invite back, but in a couple of minutes. But for the moment, can you just continue to take us through the rest of this Q2 session?
Yes, I certainly can. Actually, I can't invite you back to the game for some reason. Well, yeah, that's hopefully not going to be an issue. Maybe Aiden can drop you another invite later on. But carrying on with this Q2 session, we have 4 minutes remaining. Everybody, I was about to say everybody, coming into the pit lane. Tonelato was the only one on track. But Tim Tornimo decides to head out on another excursion in his Scarlet Red Ferrari. So, for the Ferrari driver, this is a key lap for him. Currently down in 14th place, Tonelato has decided to retire. That is a smart option from the V-Carb. That lap, surely not going to be beaten, but if it does, not going to be beaten by 10 other drivers. So, for Tornimo, currently down in 14th, he is 2 tenths away, from the cut-off point. This is going to be an absolute key and needs to be a mega lap time from the Scarlet Red Prancing Horse, and he just needs to put everything into this flying lap. He just needs to focus up and just get ready for this. He's come out quite early, so if he does invalidate, he still has time to do another run in the session. And now heading into the Curva do Sol, the stadium section, will we see him be able to fight his way back to the Q3? So for NLR, they currently have a driver sitting in 4th of Jay Kennedy. The other one, a further 10 places lap. And his next lap begins now. Oh, so crucial to get this one right. He will have no traffic, no distractions, the track to himself as he's now heading down the main straight. We'll see what he's able to do. Down into turn 1, braking at 100 meters. Get the car down to 4th gear. Clip that first apex curb, then down to 3rd gear. And just run it through turns 2 and 3. A bit of a slide from a bit too much apex curb there. But that still isn't going to unsettle the car too much as we head up into turn 4. First sector split. 1/10 up, just under a 1/10.5 of an improvement through turns 4 and 5. A little bit wide through 4, leaving his line quite narrow into 5 as he heads through 6 and 7. We now head back down into the S section. Through 8 now. He's done that very nicely. Got the line just the way he wanted to. Not like we saw Kokeni do earlier and get the car unsettled. As he heads through the middle sector nicely. Not invalidated his lap time yet. So as he heads through the middle sector, he's up by 4 tenths of a second. This surely will be enough to see him through into the next part of qualifying. If he even finds a 10th through this final sector, Laminen retires from the session. Everybody else now coming on their outlaps. But here comes Tornimo through the Pirotada. Can he get into Q3? Into 6th place. That will be on the cusp of elimination. A 13.244. A brilliant lap time from Tim Tornimo. That is certainly what he would have wanted to do as Kennedy. His teammate retires from the session as well. But we have drivers now on their outlaps. Campbell Adams has decided to come out again for another lap time. That is quite confusing to see from the Aston Martin driver. But now the next driver to be setting a lap time is the man currently sitting in 11th place. The man we've seen light up the qualifying timesheet so much this season. It is Tamas Kokeni. As you can see, I can see Kotkas, you have rejoined just before the end of this session. But Kokeni heading through turns 1, 2 and 3. A little bit too much curb through 2. He's just not really carried too much minimum speed through there. What's it going to be in sector by 4 thousandths of a second? Kokeni struggling to get through into Q3 at this current rate. He's now heading through turn 6 and 7. We'll see how well he perfects this middle sector. It's all going to be on the line through these fast-flowing corners. He's really got to put the car on the limit. He's got it a lot better through turns 8 and 9, so surely he's going to be improving on that previous lap time by about a 10th. Tornimo, of course, retiring from the session. His 2 tenths found so far for Tamas Kokeni. Will it be enough, though, come the end of this session to see him through into Q3 as he heads through the stadium section once more, through the Pirotada, a slide on entry, a lot of rear locking. That might have just cost Kokeni Q3. He's on the cusp. He goes into 10th place. Campbell Adams into the 12.8. A brilliant lap time from the Aston Martin. Lindstrom stays in 8th. Youssef is up by 800ths in the middle sector. This will be enough to knock out Kokeni. Aiden's not going to be able to improve. He's invalidated his lap time. His luck has run out in Q2, but all eyes now to the Mercedes of Youssef to eliminate one of the drivers who has been so strong in qualifying. Lang up to 9th. That's knocked out Kokeni. Youssef is through, but is it at expense of his teammate as he crosses the line? Yes, it is. Avastar Racing at the expense of Youssef going through into Q3, has been eliminated, but still, Miguel Gutierrez coming up to the line. Can he find his way into Q3? No. All eyes now to Ranieri in the other ABS car. The last hope for the Alpine outfit, heading through the stadium section now and into the Peraltada. He just needs to get into the 13.3s. Will it be enough from Ranieri to get into Q3? Yes, it will. And just by the skin of their teeth, ABS have a driver through into Q3. It's P5 for Pascal Ranieri. And wow, what an end to qualifying that was. And a big shock, Inko Kenny eliminated in Q2.
Yeah, I'm glad we were able to catch the end of that one and catch Tamas Kokeni knocked out in Q2. Aiden Hurt as well, not taking advantage of just about getting through. And he ended up P14, confirmation then of the grid. Campbell Adams just throwing in ridiculous lap times in first place. Leonardo Tonelato in second. Daniel Gottschalk in third. And Thomas Laminen in fourth. Looking down the rest of the grid, it is Pasquale Ranieri who takes that fifth place. Jacob Strode in sixth. Then it's Jay Kennedy, Tim Tornimo, Joel Lundstrom, and Thomas Lang who will make up the final grid order for this race.
Yeah, now into the oh so crucial Q3. Of course, all that hard work in Q1 and Q2 now leads to this final part of qualifying. This shootout for pole position. This will set the top 10 drivers in on the grid. And the sun has decided to pay us a little visit in this final qualifying session. So will we see even quicker lap times from these drivers? Of course, Campbell Adams set the benchmark in that final run, a 12.8, a brilliant lap time. But can he replicate it or even beat it in the final part of this session? That is going to be the big question. And the first driver out on the circuit is going to be Leonardo Tonelato, the man who was second at the end of Q2, the only other driver into the 1 minute 12. So if we go off that qualifying session, the shootout should be between Tonelato and Campbell Adams, but you can't count out drivers like Thomas Laminen or even Daniel Gottschalk, and maybe even Thomas Lang or Jacob Strode for FVR can find a way to put their Williams cars at the front of the field. So this is now where it all lies to. You only get 10 minutes to perfect your lap. And after that, there's no second tries. It all comes down to this. Who will get pole position? Tonelato is going to give us our first indication on where he is on the pace and what tyres he will be using.
Yeah, we will see where Leonardo Tonelato is able to go as he wipes out the bollard in the final sector. That hopefully won't be an omen for the ET8 driver as he crosses the line. One of two ET8 drivers and one of three, I believe, teams to have joints. 4 teams. No, I was right. 3 teams to have more than one driver. Jacob Strode and Thomas Lang for FVR. By the way, Thomas Lang, exactly the same lap time as Yusuf, but unlucky for the EVE driver that he was knocked out. But yeah, 2 FVR drivers, Jacob Strode and Thomas Lang, 2 TF10 drivers, Thomas Laminen and Daniel Gottschalk, and 2 ET8 drivers, Tonelato and Lindstrom, and then 2 NLR drivers in Tim Tornimo and Jay Kennedy. Pasquale Ranieri could not be joined by his teammate, who was knocked out P12, and Campbell Adams' teammate had a qualifying ban, so Modesto Mena will join us later on in this one. But Leonardo Tonelato, for the meantime, he will be the first one with a lap time on the board. You'd think at the moment that he's going to be targeting those low 113s, a 112. You'd think a 112 would be enough for maybe the top 5, but with the way that it's going, it won't be anywhere near. Tonelato up to the line, 1 minute 12.871. That would have been P2 in Q2, and instead it is so far P1 in Q1, and he has thrown the gauntlet down. He has set a time that now everybody is expected to try to match. Jay Kennedy up to the line, 13.1. Good enough in Q1 and Q2. Q3, a whole different story.
Yeah, a whole different ball game in this session. It's no longer about survival of the fittest. It is pure, straight-out dogfights to the top of the times. Laminen Still a further 2 attempts back from Tonelato, a 13.0 from him. Thomas Lang is currently on a lap. Everybody else, except for as Lindstrom just starts his next lap, on an out lap in this session. So, Thomas Lang, where can he go? Jacob Strude has had the better of the performances so far in qualifying, so this is where Thomas Lang can put things right and beat his teammate in qualifying and maybe, just maybe, get that pole position he is looking for. DRS Open as we head down at the back straight into the stadium section of 54.9 in that middle sector. Probably going to still be around where Thomas Laminen is in this session so far, but still being on the front row could be just so good heading down into turn 1. They do say around Mexico, pole position is not where you want to be, so for Langer to the line, it's good enough for 4th place, a 13.360. Campbell Adams now on a lap time. Of course, the driver that topped Q2 is now looking to try and maybe even break into the 0.7s in those 1 minute 12 regions. So for DRS Open now, down at this straight once more, 54.7 in that middle sector. And just look at the aggressiveness through turn 14. He's gone a little bit wide. He's somehow not invalidated his lap time, even though he exceeded the track limits. Now heading into the Perotada now. Can Campbell Adams topple Tonelato's time? It's now a tight line through the final corner. Where can he go? Only 3rd fastest for Campbell Adams, not into the 12s, but with that mistake heading through turn 14 shows there's a lot more time on the board. And for Campbell Adams, 3rd place, he'll be very disappointed with that. After his first run as Jacob Strude hits the front row of the grid. He's also into the 12s as well now.
Yeah, I think it's going to be, well, I think it's going to be everybody needs to be in the 12s, otherwise they might be even lower than 5th. I said top 5 was the target, but I think even lower is where you're going to end up if you have a 13. Thomas Lang not riding his luck. The second driver to be given luck after Aiden Hurt in Q1. Lang had the luck in Q2, but he hasn't used it to full effect yet, and he needs 5/10 if he wants to be fighting for that pole position. You got Gottschalk, Lindstrom, and Ranieri, P8, 9, and 10 at the moment, without times, with Gottschalk now coming around the final couple of corners. There will be a time up there for Ranieri. It's a 13.0, just behind Thomas Laminen. But Gottschalk up to the line, and it's going to be a 1:13.12 for Joel Lindstrom, the final driver, and he won't be setting a time. He'll be coming into the pits. I don't know whether it's not going to register a time at all. So, yeah. So I said low 13s was the target for the first runs, and most of them, especially Laminen and Ranieri, they've nailed that.
Yeah, they really have nailed that to get into those positions and just try set themselves up for the race and also into this next phase of this final part of qualifying. But really, being in the likes of 3rd and 4th is where you want to be. That could be the equivalent to pole position when it comes to the race start, because you get such a good slipstream down that main straight that you really do put yourself alongside the car in front, and that's where a lot of chaos is caused into turn 1 around a circuit like this. With such a long straight and slipstream being so powerful, it really can cause a mess into that first corner. It can be crazy to try and escape that first turn without any front wing damage. Jake Kennedy is now on a lap. Tonelato is on a lap 2. He's a little bit more further around, and he's up by 0.5 in the middle sector. So as the V-Carb heads through the middle sector now, he looks so committed. Just look, that car is on absolute rails. He's hardly having to put any steering input into it for the car to just flow through these corners. And he's a further 2 tenths up on his lap time. Tonelato, this could be pole position halfway through Q3. Heading now through turn 15 and into 16 and 17 of the Perotada. Will this be a 0.6? Could we even see a 0.5 in this session across the line? He lost a bit of time in the final part of the lap, but a 12.731, a brilliant lap time from Leonardo Tonelato. Laminen up by 1/10 of a second in that middle sector. This is still a contender for the front row of the grid against Jacob Strude. So, as we now head through the Perotada once more, Thomas Laminen on his second to last flying lap in qualifying across the line. He does get to the front row of the grid with an 8.57. That is a very strong lap time from him as well. Of course, these two, the only cars out on the circuit currently. Everyone else in the pit lane preparing for their final runs. But Tonelato Kotkaz might have just set the lap time that seals his pole position.
You'd think so, but with drivers like Campbell Adams in the order, you never quite have it sealed. And with 3 minutes 20 left on the clock, there is one more chance for these drivers to set laps. And, well, for me, I think Campbell Adams is going to find those 4/10 somewhere. He has so much time left on the board, and he will be right up there with the likes of Laminen and Tonelato, two drivers whose qualifying isn't necessarily their biggest strength. So in the race, they could fly away if they're given the opportunity. Tim Tornimo comes out of the pits. Hopefully he's a bit warmed up to the Mexican Grand Prix circuit now, as opposed to some of the tracks that he was doing earlier. Also, I was commentating on that. We don't talk about that. We talk about what he's doing now. We talk about the fact that NLR Tim Tornimo has made it through to Q3 with minimal practice, to be fair to him. And now he's looking, as another bollard's taken out this time by Laminen, he is looking to improve. He's looking to find his way into the 1 minute 12s, and he's looking to find his way onto the front row of the grid.
Yeah, he certainly is. Look how many drivers are in that 1 minute 13.0 to 1 range. You've got you got Tornimo, Kennedy, Adams, Gottschalk, Ranieri, and all in those 1 minute 13s. And just that lap by itself is still a very strong lap time. But to the likes of Strode, Laminen, and Tonelato, they have just blown it out of the water. So for Tim Tornimo, this is a crucial lap time. He does have time in hand in case he does make a mistake to go again. Question is, he'll have to back out very early on in the lap to build that battery back up, not spend too much energy of the tyres either. And he'll need to, at least, if he gets it all wrong through turns 1, 2, and 3, decide instantly on what he wants to do. So heading down into turn 1 now, braking at the 100-meter board, down to third gear. Nicely done through the first corner. Through turns 2 and 3, takes a lovely amount of apex curb through the pair of them. DRS open for Tim Tornimo in the Scarlet Red Ferrari as he just glances under the sun. 300ths down in that first sector. This is going to be an oh-so-crucial middle sector. A bit wide through turn 4. Going to offset his run up into 6 and 7. Not going to be able to carry as much speed as possible. A big slide as well on the exit of the double right-hander. So he then heads through turn 8 and 9. He picks up an invalidation. Too much apex curb. And look at that, really slowing down to try build that battery back up. He really wants that full tank of battery for his next run, because you just burn so much in the down the straights, especially down that main straight and into turn up into turn 4 as well. That's where most of your battery disposal is gone. Joel Lindstrom not set a lap time so far in this session. Where can he go in the V Cup? A 54.8 in the middle sector, so he's around about where Campbell Adams will be as he heads through the stadium section now. Lovely getting out the way there from Tim Tornimo, but Joel Lindstrom, can he go anywhere near Tonelato as he heads up to the line? Where's this going to place him? It goes 5th fastest. Joel Lindstrom, 13.111. Who is next on a lap time? It will be the Aston Martin of Campbell Adams, up by 100th in the first sector. This will not be enough to even get him in front of Daniel Gottschalk, the man who carried so much promise into Q3. He's only up by 700ths in the middle sector. Where has all the pace gone for the Aston Martin? Does he still have time left on the board through this final sector? We saw into the 0.8 in the previous session. He might not even come anywhere near that as he crosses the line. Here he comes. He does find himself into the 8s. He's onto the front row. Is Campbell Adams, the Aston Martin, pulling out a brilliant final sector to put himself onto the front row. Tonelato's down on his lap time, but we know there's time to find, and he's actually invalidated his lap, so his pole position all comes down to everybody else around him. Laminen's down on these lap times. Strode not able to improve either. Laminen's still down in that middle sector. He needs a monstrous final sector, something like Campbell Adams has just pulled off, to see if he can make it past Tonelato and onto that front row. Now into the Pirultada now. What is this going to be for Thomas Laminen? Jay Kennedy to the line, owning like fastest. Laminen to the line now. He stays in third, and all eyes to Joel Lindstrom across the line to finish off the session. But it's Leonardo Tonelato and ETA on pole once again. That was a brilliant lap time in the midpoint of the session.
That was absolutely incredible from those drivers. That was one of the closest qualifying sessions I think we've ever seen, with Leonardo Tonelato, well, I say it was close. Tonelato in the end with a 12.7, blasting everybody else out of the water, and the ET8 man will take pole position home. Campbell Adams will line up alongside him on the front row with Thomas Laminen in P3 for TF10. Then it's the two FVR drivers in 4th and 5th, Jacob Strode and Thomas Lang, with Pasquale Ranieri in 6th and Daniel Gottschalk in 7th. Then two Swedes separated by Jay Kennedy, Joel Lindstrom in 8th and Tim Tornimo in 10th. But what a ridiculous lap that was from what a ridiculous lap that was from the ET8 man to set that pole position.
Yeah, and even when the track wasn't at the most grippiest, that really was a very good midpoint lap from Tonelato, and that's really when the pressure wasn't on his shoulders as much as it would have been on the final run. So it does make sense that he set that lap time at that stage in qualifying. But of course now we do have that lobby restart for the collisions to be turned back on. But this is going to be an oh so crucial race. This is all going to come down to tyre management, race strategy, and also battery management as well, and also not picking up those track limit penalties, because here, Cockaz, the biggest thing to ruin your race at Mexico surely has got to be those track limit penalties.
Absolutely. Sector 2 is an absolute killer for that. But we're going to go straight to the 5 lights for the Mexican Grand Prix. It's lights and it's not action, because I forgot we have two spinning drivers right in the middle there. I completely got thrown off by that. I thought that was actually the race start, which is why I was so concerned by Thomas Lang spinning around straight away. There goes one of the McLarens into the wall. There goes an Alpine into the wall. And we will be having our lobby restart before we head to the race. But yeah, we've got a very exciting race ahead of us. Race predictions are always a fun aspect of what we do here, and it's even more fun when we constantly get them wrong. So tell me, Max, who's going to win this race?
Oh, it's such a tricky one to decide. Of course, with a field this close, it could go anybody's way, and we just really need to see how the race goes. But of course, drivers at the back can still fight their way to the front, especially drivers that have had qualifying bans. But I think the obvious answer in this one has got to be Tonelato with that insane quali pace. I know quali pace is one thing, race pace is another, but that car just looked like it was on rails, and he just had to put hardly any movement through the steering wheel to just get it to turn. And if he's able to carry that on into the race, that car will be absolutely rapid. And I wouldn't be surprised if he's going to be actually able to break away from the rest of the field, because that car just seems so monstrous through the corners.
It does indeed. I mean, quite a few of the drivers at the top are actually looking ridiculously quick around this Mexican circuit. You think of the likes of Adams, the likes of the pole position man. We've got a lot of drivers who could be in contention for this one. And, well, hey, you never know. They could all bang into each other. We could be having somebody else taking that victory, somebody that you don't necessarily expect. Just throwing that out there for all the clip farmers. If we want to get a competitive race, and if we want to get somebody who's knocked out in Q1, maybe the SET guys coming back and doing a 1-2, that would be something special. But yeah, I can't look past Campbell Adams. We will go to an intermission just briefly before we head to the race. It's race day, ladies and gentlemen, here in F124 around the beautiful Autodromos Hermanos Rodriguez for the Mexican Grand Prix, round 8 of 10 here in TEE. And we're very excited to bring to you, I believe it's 35 laps of action ahead of us. We've got our predictions in. Get your predictions in the chat before we go to the 5 lights. And all of the predictions get wiped out already before we head to turn 1. It's one of the longest, I believe it is the longest run down to turn number 1. So, hey, the drivers have a lot of time to bin it before we get to the first corner, but we're not looking for that. We're looking for genuine, clean racing action. And I'm sure we're going to get a lot of that tonight.
Yeah, really will. Should be a really good race from all involved. It should be very eventful. We'll see how drivers do manage, especially as I mentioned in qualifying, that first corner on the opening lap. But yeah, this circuit, plenty of overtaking opportunity. So, and a lot of it with DRS. So we should see a lot of clean racing. Maybe at the front, when we get to the final few laps, we may see a bit more contact, a bit more wheel banging, drivers being a little bit more aggressive. But at the start, it's just all about survival, keeping your car intact and in one piece. We should be ready to go again. But it seems we've lost one of the SET boys. And I think the other IRT driver's internet has gone down. So, yeah, we're missing 2 drivers, unfortunately, here this evening. And hopefully, it should still be a good race, though. Look out for Lighty and Modesto Mina at the back. They're going to be wanting to make their way through the field after their qualifying bans. And also for Tamas Kokeni as well. A big shock getting eliminated in Q2. And he is certainly going to want to make a statement in this race and really try to bring himself back to the front of the field. I think you're on mute, Cockcast.
I muted myself because I thought I'd already muted myself, so I undid it. Oh well. At least that's happened before the race and not while we are in the race. But yeah, he certainly will want to fight his way forward and try to drag something out of this race. But he's got plenty of opportunity to do so. As you mentioned, the DRS that we've got available to us, he'll be using a lot of ERS as well. It's one of those tracks where you're able to fight through the field. You have that opportunity. And, well, we'll have to wait and see to see if he pulls this one off. But his race engineer will have to be right on it tonight. The 5 lights are on for the Mexican Grand Prix. And it's action here around the Autodromos Hermanos Rodriguez. Leonardo Tonelato gets a good start. Campbell Adams will be pulling alongside into turn number 1. He won't. He'll be tucking back in. Thomas Laminen and Jacob Stroden, Thomas Lang, they are all inside each other as we head to turn number 1 now. Laminen gets ahead. Are we having a restart?
I don't think collisions are on.
No, it doesn't look like they're on. Yeah, the 2 TTM boys retiring. There it goes.
Yeah.
Tamas Kokeni and Thomas Lang into the wall. So we will be having a lobby restart.
The whole reason we had the restart has just caused another restart. Lovely stuff, boys. But yeah, all that build up, all that hype, and for Kotkaz, a second, it's lights out and away we go, and a second lobby restart to follow it up. But we have a race winner here. It's going to be the Mercedes of Avastar, and I think we should call it there. The EVE boys have decided to win the race on that one.
Well, I mean, respect to them. You can't even do that on a 5-lapper. So, well, they can't even do that in general. So they will take this victory home. I'll be very happy with it. This could run very late into the evening, but make sure to stick by us. But soon we will have our 3rd lights out of the evening. But for now, don't go away.
it's just scoring in this
We're
range.
going to the 5 lights for the Mexican Grand Prix. It's lights. And it's action, the third time this evening. And the first real time this evening we are getting underway. Campbell Adams gets a better start this time than Leonardo Tonelato. And he will pull ahead as we head down the longest run to turn number 1 to the inside. It's almost 3 wide with Thomas Laminen down the inside. But Laminen gets squeezed out. This could open the door for Jacob Strode to move up into the podium positions. There's contact. There's an end plate coming off from somebody. I think that may have been Jacob Strode. We will get confirmation of that as we head further into the race. But the top 3, the top 4 have established themselves. It is indeed not Jacob Strode for that front wing damage, so I will keep an eye out for you. But it's side by side by side behind. We've got Tamas Kokani, Tim Tornimo, Joel Lindstrom, Jay Kennedy, Aidan Hurt and Yusuf Goat. They are all inside each other as we head now through the second sector.
And he already up to 8th place, and Aidan has dropped massively down the order. I think he might have been the car to pick up the front wing damage. No, he's not. He's still got his full front wing intact. Just went really wide down at turn 8. The 2 Ferrari boys inside one another, Tornimo and Jay Kennedy. There's Tornimo now trying to use his ghosting to the advantage to get not 1 but 3 of them heading into the stadium section. Gottschalk's going to go wide through the Peraltada, and there goes Tim Tornimo up to 7th place. But here comes the Red Bull fighting back once again. Of course, they're both inside each other, so no contacts being made. But here we are. He's just pulled out to the right-hand side. Kokeni's going to be boxed in by the Red Bull and the Ferraris. We head down into turn 1. A real splitting strategies on the medium or hard side. Here's Tornimo trying to fight back against Kokeni, who's attacking. He's 8th place in this Grand Prix. They're side by side through turn 3. Kokeni is forced wide, and Tim Tornimo just able to keep his position over the Alpine driver. Further back, we have 3 wide behind between Yago, Youssef and Lighty. There goes Lighty, late on the brakes, steaming around the outside. He's already up to 13th place. Your biggest gainers and your biggest losers of this race start so far. Biggest gainers are Modesto Mina and Lighty, both up 4. Aidan down 3, and Youssef is down 5 as it currently stands. He's had a very poor start in the Mercedes, but Campbell Adams, a drink gets away on those mediums, of course, but he would want to break that 1 second margin to everybody behind. Real splitting strategies, half the field on the hards, the other half on the mediums.
Absolutely. I mean, it's going to be a very fascinating fight with Campbell Adams up the top on those mediums. And the next medium runner is Tim Tornimo, down in 8th place. So if he's able to gap everybody like we said he was going to try to do earlier, if you remember that at all, then it will be very, very interesting to see. At the moment, he's being reeled in with the DRS by Leonardo Tonelato, and Tornimo and Kokeni make it past Gottschalk. But in the meantime, we have drivers closing in on Campbell Adams. He's going to try and gain as much as he can as he's got the softer tyres through particularly sector 2. But it's a huge gamble here, especially with the amount of DRS that people will be able to gain. And so it's unlikely that he's going to be able to break that DRS. But if he does, it'll be a great achievement.
It certainly will, but it does look extremely unlikely that he's able to do that. And our first penalty picked up by Tim Tornimo is actually dropped out of the DRS range from Ranieri in front. So Tim Tornimo is going to have a lot of work on his shoulders if he wants to find his way back into that DRS range within that top 6 in front of him. So as he heads through the stadium section, just look at the train he's forming behind him as he now heads into the Peraltada once more. So for Campbell Adams, he's still about 4 tenths clear. Of course, DRS has been enabled for the past 2 laps. Tornimo actually sets the fastest lap at the Grand Prix, even with dropping out of the DRS range. Somehow, here comes Tamas Kokeni though with the DRS. Tonelato takes that race lead away from Campbell Adams, and here comes Thomas Laminen as well to the inside. 2 cars getting past Campbell Adams in the space of 1 straight. What about with Kokeni and Tornimo? Kokeni just coming out on top in that one. He needs a really strong middle sector on these medium tyres if he wants to get back within that DRS of his teammate Ranieri. He will probably drop off ever so slightly for Kokeni just to be back within that 9/10 region. So as we head through turn 6 and 7, it's been a dream start for everybody in that top 6. They've been able to somewhat shake off the rest of the field, and for Tamas Kokeni, it's exactly what he would have wanted after a disappointing qualifying.
Exactly, but he has to be careful because now he's 9 tenths behind Pasquale Ranieri. He does not want to lose that DRS to his teammates up ahead. Otherwise, that could be an absolute race killer, and he and Tornimo and Kennedy and Lighty and all of those runners who are on those mediums will struggle to get back into it. So it's absolutely vital at this point in the race. It's so crucial, despite the fact that it's so early on, that Tamas Kokani is able to stay in the DRS, and he is here. Tamas actually getting the fastest lap of the race. So a good performance by him so far, but he'll need to continue it if he's able to get through. We could have another switch for the lead of the race. Indeed, we do. Thomas Laminen taking it to Leonardo Tonelato, with Campbell Adams not taking advantage of those mediums at the moment. He's down in third place, but with the advantage that those mediums have, it's a strong advantage, but it's not actually for that long. So Adams will be desperate to get back past. He'll be desperate to get back ahead, and he needs to take this lead back soon.
Yeah, he certainly does. Of course, those mediums will wear out a lot quicker than the hard compounded tyres, and on a circuit like this, tyre wear is very high. They won't last for very long. We'll see him in the pit lane before those hard runners. The main thing, just stick with the rest of the field. I don't know if we're still on dynamic weather or we're on custom from the last race, because if it is custom from the last race, we will see it rain at the end of this Grand Prix. So now heading up into the stadium section, the Curva do Sol won for the 5th time in this Grand Prix. Will we see Campbell Adams try capitalise on having that DRS down more? So we exit out of the Piroutada, everybody's still within DRS range of one another. DRS open for Campbell Adams. It's Tonelato getting the move done on Laminen. Will Campbell Adams try following through? Yes, he will. And here comes Jacob Strode as well, looking to the inside. The Williams driver just not close enough. Him and Thomas Lang can work together nicely here. The two FVR drivers to try and get into that top 3 respectively, and see if they're able to break away past Thomas Laminen, who's not got DRS up into turn 4. And here comes Jacob Strode to the inside line of the Red Bull. He's going to try send this one on the inside, and there goes Pascal Ranieri as well to the inside of Thomas Lang. He's got that move done. Jacob Strode in the other FVR car. Could he go forward? No, he will not. Ranieri's trying to get past a pair of them in the span of 3 corners, but unfortunately having to back out into turn 8, wasn't able to get the drive up the outside line. And for Ranieri, he really is coming out swinging so far at the start of this Grand Prix. He's very aggressive at the moment, and now he's lining up the other F3R car for the main straight on the next lap.
Yeah, both the FVR drivers are going to come under threat on the next lap from both the ABS drivers who've been so aggressive early on. Tamas Kokani more aggressive on the strategy than anything else, but Ranieri has just been able to take advantage of maybe the fear of Kokani, and he has been able to get through to 5th place, maybe 4th by the end of this DRS straight, maybe 1st if you're Campbell Adams. He's going to get through, and he has that double dose of DRS as well, so that could be so crucial in starting to build that gap. He needs to build that 1 second as soon as he can, because this is the turning point for the medium compound tyres. That DRS is open. He needs to gain as much time as he can in Sector 2 now, and we will see where he ends up. With a huge lookup, he goes wide. He knew that it was so crucial to gain time, and he has absolutely fluffed his lines. Leonardo Tonelato has made his way into the lead of the race. Thomas Laminen almost made his way into P2. Instead, it's Campbell Adams waiting behind 6/10 behind Leonardo Tonelato. A huge mistake that will cost him the strategy advantage.
Yeah, that really has cost Campbell Adams dearly. He had the opportunity just to extend that gap ever so slightly. Probably wouldn't have broken DRS, but he would have extended it to around about 0.5 of a second, but wasn't able to capitalise on it. And for Campbell Adams, that could just be the opportunity of a lifetime blown away in just one small lockup. So now, as we exit out of the Piroutada once more, Campbell Adams is going to be looking to get closer once again. I did say Tonelato's car, if he was able to replicate the car being as hooked up as it was in qualifying in the race, we certainly could see a fast race car here, and he certainly got that. Heading down into turn 1 now. Laminen to the inside. There's contact made. Laminen slams into the side of the V-Cup. There's more contact. Strode round the outside. Brilliant move from Jacob Strode, seeing the pandemonium in front of him. Laminen with a huge slide out of turn 3. The Red Bull dropping drops all the way down into 10th place. Lang involved as well as he's dropping behind. Taras Kokeni. Lighty already up into the top in the battle for the top 6. Tornimo now up into the top 5 as well. Sheer pandemonium on lap 8 of this Grand Prix. A collision between Tonelato and Laminin causing Strode to just go through, and a slide from Laminin taking Thomas Lang with him sends everybody into raptures, mixes up this field, and for Lighty, who started all the way down in 16th place, has climbed all the way up to 7th already, and we're already only on lap 8 of 36. He is a driver certainly to look out for the rest of this race. Of course, wasn't in qualifying, had that qualifying ban, but showing the pace and why he was the driver chosen to take that ban, as he's now fighting with Daniel Gottschalk and Kokeni over the top 6 spots.
Yeah, and it's so crucial. Momentum, and momentum has taken one Jacob Strode past Campbell Adams, 2 TTM Lighty all the way up into 7th place. And, well, Thomas Laminin, he's going to have to rebuild that momentum after missing his braking point as he headed into turn number 1. He drops down to 10th place from fighting for potentially the lead of this race. Now, a lot of time that he needs to find. Joel Lindstrom and Aiden Hertz going at it, hammer and tongs. Aiden coming out ahead in that battle, but Lindstrom with the inside line. He needs to get on with this quickly. He does get through into P12. And the quicker this race is over, the better for him, as he has bedtime coming up. Jacob Strode continues to lead this race from Campbell Adams in 2nd place. And you'd think at this point that Adams is going to try to use the DRS to full effect to try to just stay with Strode, to make these tyres last as long as he possibly can. And, well, as we head into double figures for this race, as we head into lap 10 of this Grand Prix, he's already dropping off of Jacob Strode. You can see he struggled with the traction on the exit. That has become a theme of Campbell Adams over the last couple of laps because of those tyres. And he dropped to almost 7 tenths behind, closing him back again with the DRS. But Leonardo Tonelato, if he wants anything to say about it, he's going to move up into P2, possibly P1. Almost doing an identical move that Thomas Laminin did on the last lap. But Tonelato pulling it off more successfully. Campbell Adams, more braking issues. And he's dropped himself down to P8. Now it could even be P9. He's back with Thomas Laminin. It's hello, my friend. And he is down in the lower echelons of the points.
Yeah, that was contact, actually, with Ranieri in the Alpine. Oh, and more contact with Ranieri, who's just backed out of the move from Daniel Gottschalk. And Tim Tornimo's gone straight into the back of the Alpine in front. But Campbell Adams with some contact there with Ranieri, into turn 3. Just a little bit of wheel locking, and that sent the Aston Martin nearly into the wall on the outside, and that would have been race over for the Aston Martin driver. So as we now head into the stadium section once more on lap 10 of 36, there has been a lot of chaos already in this Grand Prix, but thanks to that contact, the top 2 have been able to break away, and Daniel Gottschalk now under a lot of pressure from Pascal Ranieri as well. He's flown his way up the order for ABS. Drivers into the pit lane off the medium tyres already. There's Lighty, Kokeni, Campbell Adams, and also Youssef Goat into the pit lane, and they are onto the hard compounder tyres. That just shows how much wear is around this circuit, that the mediums can only do 10 laps, and this is going to be a serious undercut attempt from these drivers. And Campbell Adams is now at the back of this queue of 3, and Aiden, who went that lap earlier, has actually managed to jump Youssef Goat, but still 1.1 seconds behind Campbell Adams. It is not looking like the viable strategy at the moment.
Yeah, in especially this sort of level where everybody is so close, just dropping off the field is going to be an absolute race killer. And for Youssef Goat, I think that is pretty much him over now, unless there's some sort of safety car. But yeah, P17 for Youssef Goat, and he's 3 seconds off of the pace. Thomas Laminin making his way past Tim Tornimo as the mediums, yeah, as I predicted, they have fallen off. And Tornimo, Kennedy, and Yago CG will come into the pits in the next couple of laps. Laminin needs that DRS back on Daniel Gottschalk as soon as he can, and I'm sure the TF10 teammates will work together in order to give back that DRS to Laminin. They're already working together because he's almost down into 1.2 seconds, although the DRS will take Gottschalk back up. It's a switch for the lead of the race. It's a switch for P5 with Tim Tornimo getting through. And there goes Thomas Lang as well on Thomas Laminin, and he moves his way into that P6 spot. His teammate, though, made the move into the lead just that last corner, that last braking zone. And he will be hoping to hold on to that as soon as possible. But if Leonardo Tonelato has anything to say about that, that will not be happening. Lang, by the way, passed Tim Tornimo, and he is the latest driver that is going to try and close that gap to the top 4 ahead.
Yeah, he certainly will. Tonimo now starting to struggle on those medium compounder tyres. His teammate Jay Kennedy has just come into the pit lane and he's dropped behind, Aiden Hurt behind. So for Tim, you can see how much he's struggling with the car rotation, just trying to get that front end in. And he's now under huge amounts of pressure into the Curva de Sol by Thomas Laminen. So as we head up into the stadium section, you can see how little purchase that Scarlet Red Ferrari does have. And Laminen really pushing him through the corners, and talking about pushing through the corners, has pushed him round. Laminen misjudging the amount of overspeed he'll have into the back of Tornimo, and that's surely now, unless there's a safety car, race over, because Tornimo's now picked up some front wing damage as well. He got tipped into the wall, and Laminen involved in more controversy here for the TF10 outfit and for Red Bull in this race. And unfortunately, that was all his fault. That was all him to blame, as Tornimo was trying to dive off into the pit lane. Laminen just slammed into the back of him, spinning him round. And the Red Bull driver going to be facing many an inquiry in the steward's room so far, you would think, as Co Kenny's able to get past Lighty to lead the drivers that have come into the pit lane. And now Lighty will not have any DRS, so Campbell Adams is going to maybe face an attack onto the McLaren in front of him, but no, won't get close enough for a move. But pure drama there for Laminen, and a costly error that has taken Tim Tornimo out of this race.
It's not only that incident, though, for Thomas Laminen. He is racking up those inquiries into the stewards' room, and I'm sure the team managers are already on that. It's usually an entertaining watch, the stewards' verdicts, as some of the teams, not to mention any names, Thomas Enger, like to write essays. So if he was to put pay to any Thomas Enger races, then they would have something to say about it. Tonelato into the lead of the race. Lang into P5 ahead of Laminen once again, but 2.8 seconds is a huge gap to have found. Tonelato and Strode still side by side as they head now through the end of Sector 1 up to Sector 2. To the inside is Jacob Strode. Is he going to be able to hold on to this position? They've got 3 blue cars involved, and Tonelato, the leader of them all, braking late, going wide to just block off Jacob Strode, and Pasquale Ranieri forced to back out to make a 4th blue car in this battle, but at the moment he is not in it. This is closing the gap for Thomas Lang and Thomas Laminen and Joel Lindstrom as well. So 3 of the 4 teammates of those in that top 4 battle, this could be intentional. And Pasquale Ranieri with Tamas Kokani in P12. He's just merely a passenger in this battle early on. But, well, as we head to lap 15 now, these top 4 look to be the ones in contention for the race lead at the moment. We will have to wait and see to have a look where Lighty, Campbell Adams, Tamas Kokani come out in relation to those in the top 4. But at the moment, Tonelato, Strode, Ranieri, Gottschalk looking incredibly strong.
Yeah, they certainly do, and we're now seeing everyone fly by. Tonelato with no DRS there, and to the outside goes Ranieri on Jacob Strode. He's going to try and maybe get the good old up and under out of turn 3, get the drive out of the corner. Tonelato with a good drive out of there too, as he's now using the battery a little bit, opening up the DRS. To the outside line goes Ranieri. He's not going to fight it though. Strode on that inside, just having the corner, but Ranieri going for the up and under once again to try and get the momentum out of turn 5, but not able to do so. He has to settle and sit in that 2nd place, but this really has invited the likes of Lang, Lindstrom and Laminen to this fight, and Modesto Mina as well, as Laminen now within 6/10 of teammate Daniel Gottschalk, and this really is working in the hands of the drivers that just fell off ever so slightly from this train, and it's also going to be helping the drivers who have come into the pit lane for that undercut attempt, because now they'll be coming further and further out due to all this squabbling in front. So as we head out of the Pirultada, it is Jacob Strode leading the way, but how far will he fall down this main straight with everyone behind having DRS?
You'd think that he might lose positions. Well, he will lose positions to Ranieri and Tonelato. He might lose them to the two TF10 guys as well. To Leonardo Tonelato is actually sitting behind. He's not going to make that move there. He could make it into the second DRS straight, which it opens up just over here now. And the DRS will just open up here now as well. Tonelato closing in on Strode. But he just doesn't have that straight line speed to get past. And this is where the setups can benefit you in some ways, but not others. Tonelato's setup is much, well, it's much more useful in Sector 2 than Sectors 1 or 3 in the corners as opposed to the straights. And so he will be absolutely rapid through here. Not that he's going to be able to use it because of the fact that everybody else has, well, they're bunched up together. The two in front of him are the two in front of him for a reason. And Tonelato now trying to save that ERS, ready for a charge on Jacob Strode at some point soon. But you'd think that it's the setups that is hindering him at the moment. Coming out to lap 17 in this Grand Prix. We're almost halfway through this one. And Ranieri will continue to lead. Strode closing in, pulling to the inside line. And he will likely pull ahead before the corner. Indeed, he does. And the FVR driver just tucking back in. Tonelato, the latest to look for a move. He's been able to use the slipstream. And he pulls up into P2. Ranieri looking to fight back. Does he have anything though? No, he doesn't. And the DRS down the second straight will really put pay to his fight back forward.
Yeah, it certainly will. Jacob Strode leading the way very nicely, playing well with the drivers around him. Jay Kennedy able to get past Aiden Hurt there, who actually caught up to the back of the likes of Kokeni, Campbell Adams and Lighty, but eventually has dropped off ever so slightly. And Jay Kennedy is now putting pay to those one-lap fresher tyres and the car in front of him. Back up to that train. Of course, Campbell Adams, Kokeni and Lighty working very well together. The current gap to Jacob Strode is a total of 14.9 seconds, and that gap going to be coming down more and more. Of course, on these fresher tyres, they gain about a tenth through that S section alone. So they really are starting to put those fresher hard compound tyres to good use, while all the other drivers are struggling for grip and traction. They still can't come in really for another 10 laps, can the likes of Strode, Tonelato, Ranieri and Gottschalk. So this medium hard could be the optimum strategy. Here comes Tonelato to the inside of Strode. Look at that for a move into turn 1. DRS open, was able to get it done just as he hit the brakes. He played that one perfectly, so there was no fight back from the Williams. DRS open once more as Kokeni and Lighty both able to get past Campbell Adams, who's leading that train. And here comes Ranieri now to the outside of Jacob Strode. He's been boxed in slightly from Tonelato. He's still going to fight this one on the outside. He's on the inside now for turn 5 and for 6 and 7. Strode still fighting it round the outside. This is going to cost them dearly to Tonelato in front, who's nearly broke that DRS range, but just isn't able to do it. And Ranieri able to get in front of Jacob Strode with a beautiful move outside to inside, stuck it on the inside through 6 and 7 as well, and was able to move up to second place and just stick within touching distance of Tonelato in front.
Yeah, they need to stick within touching distance, otherwise they will lose that DRS, which is oh so crucial, especially with so many drivers with DRS just behind. It's all the way down now to Modesto Mena in 8th place in terms of those with the DRS, and then Miguel Gutierrez 7 seconds off, and Tamas Kokeni now only 11 seconds off this pack with his newer hard compounder tyres. But that is the gamble that those hard runners are taken. They will not have the track position. They will have to rely on making overtakes if they want to be right up there in this race. And, well, with the mediums at the end, they will have to go so very long on these hards if they want to get up there. It's Lighty getting his way past Kokeni. It's Campbell Adams making his way past Kokeni as well into P10 and P11. Tamas Kokeni dropping to 12th place because of the DRS down the main straight. And yeah, very, very difficult for those drivers who don't have DRS to defend. And yeah, they are closing now. It is now almost down to 10 seconds. This advantage is going to get ever larger over the next couple of laps until those hard runners strap on those medium tyres.
Yeah, those mediums are going to pay dividends come the end of this Grand Prix. They've still got to stay out for another 7 laps or so in this race, and they're going to really start to struggle. And we could see the likes of Lighty, Campbell Adams, and Kokenen catch up to the back of them before they even come into the pit lanes. They're heading into the stadium section while these drivers are heading out of the Pirultada now, and they're really gaining onto the back of Miguel Gutierrez in front. Heading down into turn 1 now, though. Ranieri looking to the inside of Tonelato, and so is Strode as well. Tonelato just says, go on through, lads. I'm not going to waste too much time squabbling with you, and I can also save my battery in the process. Ranieri did go a bit deep into turn 1, so that's going to cost him against Strode behind him, but I don't think Strode's going to go for the move either. He's just going to sit behind, save that battery once more, and just maybe go for an attack later, but a lock-up for Ranieri could change the whole idea to that plan, but Strode not able to go for the move. Round the outside through turn 5. And that gap now between Gutierrez and Campbell Adams is now less than a second. Half a second separates Gutierrez and Adams. And this is really where Gutierrez could maybe help the other hard runners in front of him by just holding up the likes of Lighty, Kokeni, and Adams through this middle sector. And that will save them dear time indeed. So Campbell Adams now going to surely line up a move into the stadium section. No, he's not. He's just going to sit behind once more, but he really needs to try and get this move done. Is he going to be into the next corner? No, he's really just going to wait for that DRS. And we have our first 3 pit stops from the front of this field. It's Ranieri, Gottschalk, and Lang all into the pit lane. Of course, on that lower fuel, they might be able to extend those mediums just that little bit longer. They've gone in now. They've gone for that undercut. Let's see how far out it is in relation to the likes of Lighty, Campbell Adams, and Tamas Kokeni. It's going to be about, I would say, 8 seconds, maybe even 9 seconds between Kokeni and the medium runners behind. So this is going to be a big, big strategy, and they're really going to have to put those medium tyres to good use if they want to be able to catch up to the likes of Lighty, Campbell Adams, and Kokeni.
Indeed they will. And it is really now or never for those medium runners. Pasquale Ranieri leading them with 5 seconds behind Aidan Hurton, and another 3 to get to Miguel Gutierrez, and then another second to get to Tamas Kokeni. Gutierrez, who probably needs to come in, otherwise he's going to get swarmed in the next couple of laps with all of these drivers just getting ready for the attack, for the launch. And the IRT man will just be like a fly on the wall. They'll try and swat him away as soon as they can. Jacob Strode, Leonardo Tonelato coming into the pits, Thomas Laminen as well. Joel Lindstrom and Modesto Mena, they're going to stay out for at least another lap. And Modesto Mena coming through to take the lead of this one into, coming from a grid penalty to the front of the grid. It's the wrong Thomas Enger sim driver, though. They will be wanting the other one right up the top. And it could be a play here to see how long Modesto can stay on those hards, to see how long he can hold off to Lighty and try and work together with Campbell Adams. I'm sure it's not, but in the next couple of laps, it will all come to light. I'd hope that it will come to Lighty if I'm a TTM fan. I'd hope it would come to Campbell Adams if I'm a Thomas Enger fan. We will see as we're on lap 22 of 36 now. We've got 14 laps of racing left, and we've only got 2 more forced pit stops to go. With Miguel Gutierrez, I was right. He came into the pits on that last lap. He is now 2.5 seconds off of Tim Tornimo, but you'd think that that's going to be a fight at the end of the race with those mediums. They are trying to stretch them quite a long time. 14 laps is what they're going to do. So it makes sense for Mena and Lindstrom to push it as long as they can get away with it. In comes Mena, in comes Lindstrom. They are going to do what will be 13 laps on those mediums.
Yes, they are, and that gap really is starting to come down between Gottschalk and Campbell Adams, who is in the middle of this train at the front of the field. It's now about 6 seconds. We can now really start to use the gap to leader to really know how much they're gaining on the cars in front of them. Gottschalk with a new fastest lap of the Grand Prix of 15.0. That is a certain very, very quick lap time, and quite a way quicker than Campbell Adams, Lighty, and co. But you can just see the train. He's leading behind him. It's had the race protagonists, the likes of Strode, Tonelato, and Ranieri behind as well. The 3 drivers who were leading this queue before they came into the pit lane. Now it's Gottschalk at the front of it, and he will try and hold on for as long as he possibly can. The gap between Campbell Adams and Daniel Gottschalk, 7.7 seconds. I'll check in on that when it comes to the next lap. See how much they are gaining at this stage of the Grand Prix. Of course, those medium tyres will begin to fade and begin to wear, so they'll start losing that advantage over the hard compounded tyres, but they really are gaining up to the back of Aiden and Jay Kennedy, and they could be a thorn in the side for these medium runners, because they're two drivers that are fighting for position. They will not let these guys go easily, and they will certainly want every point they can get, and especially for Aiden, he can help his teammate out of Lighty and squabble with these medium runners for as long as he possibly can.
I'm sure he's going to try to do that, but at the moment it's, well, I mean, he's made his way back past Jay Kennedy. That is another driver who could be the thorn in the side of the TTM plan. Lighty back into the lead of the race. He's had an incredible one to fight from the back of the grid, from a grid penalty, all the way up right to the very top. Jay Kennedy and Aiden Hurt are now 1.8 seconds ahead of Daniel Gottschalk. Then it is 4.4 seconds before they are, before the charging medium pack catch up to the lead group. At the moment, I would want to be the likes of Lighty, Campbell Adams or Tamas Kokani as Leonardo Tonelato picks up a 3-second penalty just to make his weekend slightly more difficult. But at the moment, I'd want to be Lighty, Campbell Adams or Tamas Kokani because those mediums are going to go off at the end of the stint. That is a fact. And those hards, they will last just that little bit longer. So even though at this point in the stint and going later on into the stint, they will struggle. But right at the end, when they are actually fighting for position, they'll just have that little bit more in them.
Yeah, they certainly will. And that is what it's all going to boil down to. That gap between Gottschalk and Lighty is coming down by about a second a lap. It's now 6.4 seconds as they cross the line. When they started the lap, it was on 7.4. So it really is starting to come down between these medium and hard runners. But here we see Gottschalk start to navigate his first challenge. The challenge is Aiden Hurt and Jay Kennedy. Two drivers squabbling for position and are not willing to back down at all. Aiden, if he knows what's good for Lighty, will decide to defend for his teammate and hold up Gottschalk for as long as possible. There's still 10 laps to go in this race, and they really need teamwork to make this one work for TTM. So as we head through the middle sector, we can just see how much more grip Gottschalk has over the cars behind, and these two boys in front of them can really separate these medium drivers and can really decide who is in contention for the win and who is not. Just look at the train they're holding up behind. Could Lamina maybe even go for a move into the stadium section? Yes, he can. To the inside of Aiden he goes. Really well executed if he's able to pull this one off into the Peraltada. Now, Aiden on the inside will have the worst traction. Won't be able to get the run, and he's already through. It's Daniel Gottschalk before we even get to the DRS zone. Ranieri and Strode now fighting over position. Here comes Aiden, though, fighting back against Daniel Gottschalk. Here comes Ranieri to make it 3 wide. Could we see 4 wide with Strode as well? Ranieri to the inside, not only Aiden, but now also Jay Kennedy. There's contact between the Ferrari and the Alpine. The Ferrari just able to hold on for now. Aiden squabbling with Gottschalk. Strode trying to capitalise. Lang trying to get involved too. Is Pascal Ranieri going to get close enough to Jay Kennedy? No, he is not. Aiden round the outside of Daniel Gottschalk. He slides and slips his way to the inside line for turn 5. He wasn't able to hold on to one of the medium runners, but he's been able to hold off the rest of them. And Aiden Hurt take a bow with some defensive driving 3 wide into turn 9. I've never seen that before. And Thomas Lamanen not only gets 1, but maybe even 2 FVR drivers. No, he gets past Lang, wasn't able to hold on against Daniel against Jacob Strode. And actually, Jay Kennedy might be doing the ultimate tactician play here by waiting up for the DRS. And once again, Gottschalk going for the move on Aiden Hurt, this time to the inside of the Peraltada, and is able to get the move done. But still, Aiden will fight this one back with now Jacob Strode on his inside, and Kennedy looking to try get back in front of Pascal Ranieri as well.
Yeah, what absolute chaos we have in the mid-pack. We've got another 3 wide moments here with Aiden Hurt, Thomas Lammen and Jacob Strode. I think that is Daniel Gottschalk as well involved. Gottschalk comes out on top. Hurt trying to be later on the brakes, but he's unable to, and that is him around. Laminen involved in another incident. This time, he was just a passenger.
Oh, that is so disappointing for Thomas Laminen. Aiden just getting too aggressive defending for his teammate. And here's Tonelato and Strode 3 wide into turn 5. Aiden really getting those elbows out. He's really loving this scrap. And he's still to the inside of Strode and Tonelato. Tonelato's been able to do the pair of them in this. Ranieri picks up a 3-second time penalty. That's crucial for this race. As Tonelato's able to get past Aiden Her. But Ranieri, with that 3-second time penalty, he's the median runner in best contention of picking up this race victory. He's still going to gain 5 seconds and then add an extra 3 on top. I don't think he's going to be able to do that, and we could just see the hard runners given a lifeline in this Grand Prix, as Aiden now defending from Jacob Strode behind as well. But with a total of 8 laps to go in this Grand Prix, the drivers who boxed early for those hards given an absolute lifeline from Pascal Ranieri, but he still can't count out Daniel Gottschalk, who's getting closer and closer to Ranieri as he's just got past Jay Kennedy. He's within DRS range of the Alpine, so Gottschalk still could spoil the party for the 3 drivers battling it out at the front of the field as Aiden finally gets overtaken by Jacob Strode.
Yeah, and it is a good fight that was put up by Aiden Hurt. You could tell that he was fighting for his teammate, but now the gap between Pasquale Ranieri and Campbell Adams, just 5 seconds, and it could come down in the last 8 laps of this Grand Prix. But those tyres towards the end of this will be absolutely screaming out in pain. But crucially, the DRS has been broken between Thomas Lang and Jay Kennedy. The DRS has been broken between Jay Kennedy and Daniel Gottschalk. So from the looks of things, it's just going to be Ranieri and Gottschalk, because Lang, 3-second penalty. Yusuf Goat as well, 3-second penalty, but he's down in P14. But Thomas Lang becoming the second driver to get a 3-second penalty. We were talking earlier about how crucial it is to not get a time penalty, not exceed track limits. We could say it could decide this race, and it still indeed could. Ranieri, Lang, and Tonelato, 3 drivers in the top 8, all with those penalties. And Tamas Kokani now with the lead of the race. Campbell Adams making his way past Lighty as well. And it's a top 3 scrap. They don't want to fight too hard, but they have gained on that last lap 2/10 to Pasquale Ranieri behind. It's DRS for Kokani, DRS for Adams, and Lighty will stick in this pack. They need to work together if they're not going to fall off.
Yeah, they certainly do need to work together at this stage of the Grand Prix, especially with the medium runners. Especially with the medium runners going to be breathing down their necks at the end of the Grand Prix. So it's all going to be about how they are able to use this DRS to their advantage. Of course, Ranieri and Gottschalk haven't got that much of a DRS advantage over them, but where they're bunching up, because there's 3 of them, that is where the medium runners can make pay through the corners. So Ranieri and Gottschalk really need to start swapping places. Do what we see usually at the front of the field. One driver goes through one lap, the next goes through on the other to try and minimize the amount of time lost over the course of a lap. But those mediums here, Kotkaz, do seem to be struggling already. They're not finding as much time through the corners, and they are starting to struggle with actual traction, especially through that stadium section. There goes Campbell Adams to the front of the field. Lighty drops down to second. Gottschalk able to get past Ranieri, and here comes Tonelato and also Strode on Jay Kennedy. There's Strode to the inside. He gets the pair of them down the straight, 2 for 1 in one corner, and Strode able to move up to 6th place. He's trying to hunt down the 2 in front of him, but those medium tyres really are starting to struggle, and that really could be the deciding factor in this strategy against the hard tyres.
Yeah, we saw earlier on in this race Campbell Adams start to struggle on about lap 8 of this Grand Prix on those mediums right up the front. And it could be the same situation now for Gottschalk and everybody below him. But here's the one in the best position to take that, as that is a 3-second penalty. I got excited there because I thought that was for Lighty. It wasn't. It was for Aiden Hurt out of the points, but he gave up hell of a good scrap. And now he's down in P12 and his race is more or less over. But the top 3, they've lost a second to Daniel Gottschalk since the last time I checked in with you. Keep an eye on that battle as we head now onto lap 31 of 36 in this Grand Prix. Campbell Adams, TTM Lighty, and Tamas Kokani still fighting away for this race lead. Lighty, the latest to take it. And these 3, they will be focusing on trying to get ahead now as Ranieri moves past Daniel Gottschalk. Those top 3 will be looking now to try and build that gap. And it'll be later on in the race where they start to care about who is in first, who is in second, and who is in third. For the moment, they're just happy to be there.
Yeah, they are. The medium runners behind are gaining by about half a second a lap, but this time it seems to be a bit more. They've had the better run through turns 1, 2, and 3. We could see that gap closing ever more. You can just see them on board of Ranieri in the distance heading into turns 8, 9, and 10. And you can really start to just imagine what is going on in the cockpit of that ABS Alpine. Of course, Kokeni on the inverted strategy could help his teammate here, could just allow him through and just allow him to scrap with the 2 in front. And if worst comes to worst, then Ranieri can just back them up into Kokeni's path with that 3-second time penalty. Gottschalk as well going to be licking his lips and sniffing that opportunity for a race win here this evening. But still, with a total of 5 laps to go, it's anybody's game. And Ranieri now 3.5 seconds behind the field in front. They've gained about half a second once again over the course of this previous lap. Here comes Tonelato on Jacob Strode. Here comes Joel Lindstrom on Jay Kennedy. Not actually close enough to go for a move on Jay Kennedy down that main straight. The tyre wear on these tyres probably around about the same window. And this time, Ranieri's not had the greatest of runs down that main straight. He's not had the DRS this time. And this could be the deciding factor. The drivers on the mediums here, Kotkaz, not having that DRS and not being able to get close enough to switch and being Gottschalk in this one, that has just maybe given that extra half a second that Kokeni, Adams and Lighty just needed till the end of the Grand Prix to stick in front of these 2 boys behind.
Absolutely, it's the minimal gains that they are able to take out of this, and Lighty, Adams and Kokeni. I'm expecting that gap to not come down again. Those mediums are going to be starting to struggle, and they're going to struggle more over the next few laps in this race. We've not got many laps to go in this race, and Lighty, Adams and Kokeni staying up in the top 3 for the moment, 3.4 seconds, but you can see on the circuit how close it is. You can see on board with Ranieri that you can that Tamas Kokeni out into the distance, but this is the crucial time in this race for the top 3. Can they keep this gap over a second? If they can, then I reckon they've got that podium. If they can't, then they are going to get absolutely swarmed at the end by the likes of Gottschalk, Strode, maybe even, or Gottschalk and Ranieri, maybe even Strode and Tonelato will find their way into it as well. But the top 3, they are happy to continue working as a team, and towards the end of this race, this is going to get very, very tense. Thomas Laminen, by the way, looking like he's having an almighty scrap with Miguel Gutierrez for P14. Big wobble on the exit. That opens up the gap for Yusuf Goat to go through into P14. Fastest lap for Tim Tornimo in an even more irrelevant position, 17th and last 17th, despite the fact that we were going to have a full grid. One of the IRT drivers didn't turn up. One of the SET drivers needed to restart. No, one of the EVE drivers, sorry, needed to restart his wheel. And one of the other SET drivers, I don't think, turned up in the end. That is the reason that we don't have a full grid yet. Indeed, Yago CG is there. His teammate is not. Lap 34 of 36. Lighty's going to retake the lead of the race. Is Tamas Kokeni going to blast his way through on Campbell Adams as well? Indeed he is. That second place is even more highly coveted than that first at the moment because of the DRS games that can be played.
Yeah, it certainly is. You want to be in second place heading on to that final lap of this Grand Prix. And Ranieri is still not gaining by enough. And Laminen elects to retire in the pit lane. He's had enough with 3 laps to go here in the Grand Prix. And unfortunately for the Red Bull, that is his day done. He's been involved in many an incident here this evening. And unfortunately, it has all unravelled at the final moments of his Grand Prix. But looking at this battle further up between the mediums and the hard runners, 2.7 is that gap. They still need to be gaining by more for the driver to catch up to the drivers in front. But Gottschalk starting to fall away from Ranieri might just be the nail in the coffin. They try as hard as they might for this hard medium strategy to work out, but it seemed the inverse, just seeming to be that ever so slightly better, getting that undercut around a circuit like this, having 3 drivers helping you with DRS just to pull you along, might have just given Campbell Adams, Kokeni and Lighty the fighting chance to take this race victory. Here comes Campbell Adams on Tamas Kokeni. He's going to pull to that inside line heading down the main straight. He's not going to get close enough, but this is oh so crucial now as Ranieri back to 3 seconds behind. Surely not going to get close enough for the final lap.
You'd certainly hope so. If you are one of the top 3 drivers, the only exception would be if you're an ABS fan. Then you could be seeing Pasquale Ranieri fight for the podium right at the end of this one. But the top 3 look like they're going to hold on to this one. Ranieri not gaining enough, not gaining as much as he would have wanted to. And that strategy to start on the medium, switch to the hards, appears to be the one to be on as we head now. The penultimate lap of this race is halfway through. We're going to be on the final lap of this race. And Lighty, Kokeni and Adams, they could all be fighting, scrapping for this race victory. Do not count out, though, those on the medium compounded tyre as Tonelato picks up another 3 second for track limits as he is fighting away with Jacob Strode, taking that P6 and Strode forced to drop down to P7. Joel Lindstrom becomes the latest to pick up a penalty. Surely that is because of the fact that he's had to turn around, reply to his mum. He cannot go to bed yet. It is the final lap of this race, and he is still fighting 4 points in this one. We are on the final lap. Strode and Ranieri side by side. Ranieri dropping down in that group, actually. He was P4 very, very recently. But looking back at the lead of the race, it's Kokeni and Lighty. They are side by side. Kokeni comes out on top. We'll switch back to what was a 3-wide moment for P4. Leonardo Tonelato takes it. Pasquale Ranieri sits in P5. Gottschalk and Strode, both penalty-free, fighting for P6 and P7. This will be net P4 and P5. And it looks as though Strode has the edge. There's a slide from Ranieri. That means that Strode and Gottschalk will have a roadblock ahead of them. But switching back up to the lead battle, Kokeni still holding on to this one. Lighty trying to snatch it back. He's just over a 10th behind. He's got one more DRS zone to go in this race. If he's able to take this victory, he's going to use everything down this straight. Strode picks up 3 seconds. Gottschalk will take that P4. But Lighty, looking to the outside line, might be looking for a switchback as Kokeni goes defensive. Lighty holding the outside line. Kokeni wobble on the exit. Contact with Lighty. Round goes Kokeni as Adam spotted an opportunity. And out of all of that, Lighty comes home victorious. There goes Kokeni. He finishes in second. Tonelato in third, but a 3-second penalty means that the top 3 end up in the top 3. The top 3 for so long end up in the top 3. But it is a very different story.
Wow, just wow. That final corner, it all came down to that. And it was Campbell Adams who went too risky on the brakes, hit the side of Tamas Kokeni, sent the Alpine spinning, and in all of that, went into Lighty as well, who just was able to keep his car in the straight line. But TTM do it again. They win for a 3rd time this season. And Lighty able to pick up a victory for the Papaya outfit. And for Kokeni, it was oh so close to a brilliant victory from 13th on the grid to a race win. That really nearly was for ABS a stellar drive from Tamas Kokeni, but brutally taken away from his hands at the last few meters. I want to know exactly what happened there between the drivers, but Campbell Adams was the driver at fault for that. I would say that for the move there at the Pirotada, because no chance for Kokeni to do anything, or even Campbell Adams, and even Lighty. Campbell Adams, too risky, too desperate to send it, and what could have just been a brilliant P3 for Thomas Eng Sim might drop him all the way down to the lower ends of the points due to a silly mistake.
Yeah, I think both the Discord chat and the race chat agree with you on that one. They think that all 3 of the top 3 will get penalties, and they think that Daniel Gottschalk will actually come out on top of that one. We'll have to wait and see what happens in the stewards room, but we always do in these sorts of races. Have to wait to see what happens in the stewards room, so keep an eye out for tweets, for posts, or maybe even join the Discord. But TTM Lighty ended up on top from P17, a Qualiban on the grid with Tamas Kokani 12th, 2 second. Previous completely wrong in saying that he was a qualifying merchant. He's come back and his race pace has been insane. Campbell Adams doing very well, even though he has dropped from that second place down to third, but it could have been so much better. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have Daniel Gottschalk, the potential race winner in fourth, with Jacob Strode in P5. Joel Lindstrom taking P6, and now he's going to be off to bed. Leonardo Tonelato in seventh. Jay Kennedy in P8. Pasquale Ranieri in P9, with Thomas Lang rounding out the top 10. Then it's Hayden Hurt, Miguel Gutierrez, Yusuf Goat, Modesto Mena, Iago CG, and then Tim Tornimo rounding out the finishes, with Thomas Laminen the only retirement.
Yeah, what a drive that was from victory, and it's proved why he took that quali ban over Aiden, because they knew he had the pace to pull through, and he certainly did pull through in the end. What a race victory from the man in Papaya. Just wow, from 17th on the grid all the way up to P1. Lighty shall take a bow, and that probably is one of his greatest race victories in his career, because to do it from the back of the grid like that in such a tricky race and with so many different factors going into it, and yeah, really just wow, what a drive from Lighty. And Campbell Adams has taken responsibility, I'm seeing in the Discord, for that collision. He said he saw the move, he saw the opportunity on Lighty, wasn't going for the move on Tamas Kokani, but just unfortunately tapped the side of the Alpine, and just unfortunately just out of his control that he also got spun round by Lighty as well. So well done for Campbell Adams for taking responsibility on that one, seeing that it was his fault. But yeah, Lighty, brilliant drive from him, and just what a way for TTM to give themselves a good haul of points that now should give them a nice point score to maybe get close to FVR in front of him. And with 2 rounds left in the season of Austria and Brazil, we could have that fight for third in the standings. And for ET8 and TF10, or results from the pair of them could also leave that battle for the championship still wide open.
You mention it, I'll repeat it. 2 rounds left in the season, ladies and gentlemen, and it's 2 of the shortest laps. So 2 of the longest races, or app-wise, we are going to head to Austria, and then Brazil will finish off our season. But thank you very much to those of you for tuning into this stream, and we'll see you again next time. Bye-bye.